Good morning to Bromfields in the 35 corridor. I'm D. Lee Edwards here, the host of the Real Deal Real Estate Show. And today's special guest is going to be Robert Camerino. He is the city manager for the city of New Braunfels. We're going to talk about what went on in 2023 and 2024. But first, it's time for the New Braunfels Title Market Report. Well, today we're going to give you a little different outlook. Yep, we're going to kind of sum up last year, what's going to go on this year, and really, how did we compare to a couple of years prior? So, home sales this year, we had 1,510 homes sold in the city of New Braunfels. Now, last year we had 1,499, so we were up 11. But the year before, in 2021, we were 1,826 homes. So, really, we were down about 300 from one of our best years in 2021. Outlook for 2024, expect us to be up about, close between 1,550 and 1,600, provided that interest rates begin to drop and availability stays strong. Average sale price in 2021, we could have bought a average price home for $395,000. 2022, it went to $435,000. That was up about 9%. And 2023, we had a pullback to $418,000. Expect the numbers to go back up when the interest rates start to drop in mid-year. So we'll probably see back in the 430s and make us kind of level with 2022. Median sale price was $325 in 2021, $381 in 2022, and $369 in 2023. The days on market were 55 in 21, 49. We were moving them quick in 2022. And last year, we went to 87 days on market. Now, right now, it's taken about 70 days. That's probably going to be our average most of the year. Expect the fourth quarter to be a little quicker as we get interest rates down and the inventory starts to gin a little bit. Now, volume-wise, here's the shocker. We went from selling $871 million in homes in 2021 to $798. That is an $82 million swing. That tells you your economy took a little hit. Now, on the home affordability side, this is the real shocker. Average median income is what we look at to establish how affordable we are as a town. And the news is we're not. Okay, so in 2021, the average median income was $76,000. Interest rate was at 2.7. Your mortgage for that you could afford with that income was $1,900 a month. The median home price was $2,025. Your payment would have been on that house $1,918. And yes, you could afford a house and have $5 left over. Okay. So, and that's using not all your money, just the normal qualification. In 2022, though, your income went up nicely to $84,000, but interest rate went up 3.5%, and the mortgage potential was $2,109, but the cost of a house went up $60,000. So your payment would have been $2,396. Could you afford it? No. How much by? $287 you were short a month. Now in 2023, I got news for you. It's bad. Income went up about $2,000. Interest rate doubled to 6.7. Your mortgage payment would be $2,145 is all you could afford. Median price of the house came down to $369, but your mortgage payment went up $800 to $3,116. Guess what? If you were in the median income, you're short to buy the median priced house by $970 a month. Talk about a second job, buddy. Now, 2024, is it going to get better? Yes. Your income should be up. Average median here should be close to $90,000. 6% interest is going to be the average. Late in the year, it'll be better. Max mortgage is $2,236. Median price of a house will be around $380. Your mortgage payment on that would be $2,822. And can you afford it? Making $90,000? No. You'll be short $600 a month, so you still need the second job. Sorry. Now, stats by county. Hey, Comal County looked good this last year. They had an average price of $535,000. That was down only $14,000 a unit. They were selling pretty good, but we sold 3,248 homes. That was a pretty good year. So overall, it was great. So what's been going on? Well, guess what? Interest rates are at 6.78 today on conventional and 6.08 on 15-year. We have FHA at 6.15 and VA at 6.17. Those numbers are looking really good. The bond market held. We've got 10-year at 4.038. We have the 2-year sitting at about 4.5, and the 91-day T-bill is still rocking at about 4.8. The stock market had a good week. Yep, that's right. The Dow was at 37,711, up. NASDAQ at 14,970, trying to get over 15. They're up. And the S&P was up to 4780, and they're up. So all good news with the stock market. Oh, and oil prices? Well, we dropped $1 a barrel, but we're still in the 72s in spite of OPEC increasing production and Exxon losing the big field in Iraq to the Chinese. Talk about more economic oil wars coming. But right now, it's still good at the pump. Now, all of this is good news. Look, we got people buying. We're about to bottom out on price reduction. So the next 6 months is the time for you to buy. You've got interest rates lowering, so that's going to be good. We got stock market is headed up. It's going to be up and down over the next few months, so don't run out thinking it's all fuzzy and good. Take a look at AMC Theaters. They took a whipping this week. You've got other good things that are going on. With oil prices cheap, it's easier for you to drive and see parts of Texas and America, so you take advantage of it. And the biggest thing for you this week is this. We're going to have ultra cold weather on Monday and Tuesday. That's 22 degrees and 18 degrees. If nothing else for the Real Deal Real Estate Show, what we want you to know is go ahead and winterize now while there's supplies. If you need an extra faucet, you better buy it now while it's available. There are things out there like freeze misers that can help you. Drip your faucets, not flow them because we can't lose all the water, but I mean a little bit of drip to do your thing. Wrap them, even better. If you don't have anything, take towels. If you have to, just go take a bathroom towel and a zip tie and take care of it. But do protect yourself. If you don't have enough warm clothes, try to go get them. Go to Goodwill, get what you need, get blankets. And if you're really destitute, see some of the churches and the social groups to see what they have for you. So stay warm on Monday and Tuesday, and let's not have a disaster. And for the Real Deal Real Estate Show, let's have a great weekend. Keep the investing going. And that's the Real Deal for January 13th, 20. And we're back on the Real Deal Real Estate Show. And our special guest today is the city manager of New Braunfels, Texas, Robert Camarino. We're going to just be discussing some fun stuff today. So how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come on the show.
Hey, great. Glad to have you. Now, this segment of our show is brought to you by Meyer Heating and Air Conditioning, keeping you comfortable all year long. So 2023 was really the first year after la COVID fully. How'd it go for you last year in 2023?
It was still a really busy year. Now, obviously, 2021, 2022, we really saw sort of a comeback of a lot of things. I think there was a lot of pent-up demand for folks that wanted to get out, for new construction. We saw new construction slow down in 2023, but certainly did not go away, but definitely did slow down. But we were also very effective in getting a number of projects underway in 2023. As you know, we had a bond program that was approved by our voters in 2023, but we also had two previous bond programs, the 2013 bond program, which all of those projects have been completed, and we had the 2019 bond program, which we were able to break ground on a couple of projects related to that. More importantly, and most of those 2019 bond program projects are completed, but the Zip Family Sports Park had not yet started, but we were able to get past some budget issues with regards to that project and actually break ground in 2023.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that the public has to understand is that when you pass a bond, you pass it based upon estimated bond rates at the particular time and estimated cost based upon analysis you've done, and you do factor in for inflation and some things like that. But our inflation rate on some things went up, supplies went up, and obviously the interest rate went up on when you issue the bond. So how did the interest on the bonds affect your 2019 bond when you yielded these out?
We are very conservative when we actually project what the interest rate will be when we issue bonds. And in fact, we're conservative when we project growth in revenue, for example, just because we certainly don't want to overpromise and underdeliver and then be in a situation where we might not be able to deliver on a project. With regards to the interest rate, it actually still stayed within line of what we had projected. Okay. We were able to issue, though, right after the 2019 bond was approved, we issued some bonds that year, and then the subsequent year, and interest rates were great.
Yeah,
they're not as good as they were, but still within our projected interest rate amount.
Yeah, and anything that hasn't been issued sometime by mid-year or late year, if you have any late issuances, you may be in a better position than you are right now.
You are. We also try to issue bonds when we actually need the money.
Right.
Rather than issue it all at once and then it just sits there and it's not working for you. The interest rate that you earn on any
you burned it up
deposits.
The other way.
Exactly. And so we try to time debt issuances based upon the need for the projects.
All right, so on the bond programs that you have finished, what were the things that got finished in 2023 that you're really happy about that they got done?
Well, in 2020, most of the 2019 bond projects were completed prior to 2023.
Oh, well, good.
In fact, we had, when you talk about some of those projects, we completed the police headquarters in 2022.
Right.
And the Veterans Memorial, which is a fantastic building. The memorial is beautiful, and if you haven't been there in the evening, you've got to visit it in the evening because it's lit up and it's beautiful. We completed 2 fire stations in 2022, Fire Station 2 and Fire Station 3. We were able to break ground, and this was not a part of the 2019 bond program, but actually funded by the Creekside TERS, or Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone.
Right, the TERS.
We broke ground on Fire Station 7 in the fire training facility, which is located on NBU's current site on FM 306. So not funded by a bond, not funded by tax revenue, but funded by the increment that's coming off of the TERS.
Well, and that's what the TERS is designed to do.
Exactly.
Once you get that revenue stream up, it's a benefit to the city, not counting the fact that they built the infrastructure in that location. And at the particular time, everybody thought, wow, we're really putting a lot in here, and then we come up a little short because we were really good.
Yeah, the TERS has certainly been a huge benefit to the city of New Braunfels. Obviously, Creekside's been a benefit to New Braunfels, but the TERS itself has been a benefit. It has been able to fund a number of different projects, Fire Station 7 and the equipment for Fire Station 7 being one of those in the fire training facility.
That's a big deal because the equipment, in many cases, is almost way more than
a fire
engine
engine itself, depending on the type of engine that you get, could be $1 million to 1.2 to 1.5 million. Just one.
Just that. Okay, so for 2024, what are you looking at that the public ought to be aware of? And then we'll talk about some other things in 23.
Sure. So 2024, we're working very diligently to continue on our street maintenance program and also those projects, those roadway projects that were included in the 2023 bond. So, for example, we expect we actually broke ground on and this is going back to 2019 project, so I apologize.
Not a problem.
But we expect in 2024 to be able to complete Klein Road Phase 2 from Walnut to FM 725, which was a Phase 2 of that project. Phase 1 was in the 2013 bond.
Right.
Phase 2, 2019. That contractor is doing a great job. We'll complete that later in 2024. We'll be able to break ground on the Goodwin Conrad's Lane project later this year as well.
Yeah, that was one that's dragging behind, but you had some design and engineering issues with the bridge, and and some acquisition stuff on right of ways that had to be dealt with.
You bet. And then also there's some utilities that need to be relocated. And so NBU's done a great job in designing their utility relocations. They're actually underway with relocating their utilities. So they've been a great partner to us. And so as soon as they're done, we'll be able to jump in and
now,
do the
Conrad
roadway
Kohlenberg
construction.
was completed, right? That's all finished from 1102 to the interstate. Is that right?
So Conrad's from I-35 to Goodwin is a part of this
Right.
2019 bond project.
Okay.
Kohlenberg, on the other side of I-35, from I-35 back to 1101, we did some minor work out there to sort of improve the ride quality, widen it just a tad. But the 2023 bond program, actually, one of the projects in that is the widening of Kohlenberg Road from I-35 to FM 1101.
Okay. Now, you said you finally shook loose stuff on the sports park. Where are we on that, and where do you think you'll be by the end of 24?
There's been a lot of site work that's being completed. In fact, we've sent 2 updates to the council with some drone pictures, and then have actually placed labels on those pictures so that they know this is the softball quad, this is the baseball quad, this is the soccer field quad. So that's coming along very well. Spalglass is a contractor on that project.
And we're back on the Real Deal Real Estate Show, and we're discussing with Robert Camarita, the city manager, all things going on with some bond projects and some things and outlooks for what's going to go on this year in the city, and some things we want to talk about to see how we're going to progress as one of the fastest growing cities in the U.S. All right, so anything else that we need to talk about in 2023 that were accomplishments you were glad we got done, and that whether it was a feather in a cap or just I'm so glad we got this finished.
Kind of all of the above, right? And so certainly we were able to complete, as I mentioned, we broke ground on the Zip Family Sports Park, broke ground on Fire Station 7, fire training facility, but we also completed the Westside Community Center Library, which is a fantastic branch over on the west side of our community. In fact, that's where I grew up. That's my neighborhood out in that area. And so we're very happy about that. But we also finalized the city's first transit development plan, which really helps to lay out public transportation within our own community, right? And what that might look like going forward. Is that going to be fixed routes? And if so, what do those routes look like? How many stops along those routes? Will that continue to include on-demand service, which is currently what we have with ACOG? The ART service in New Braunfels is actually funded by the city of New Braunfels, and then partially funded in a really good partnership with Comal County, funded for those public transportation services. But that's an on-demand service. And certainly we could be better. And so this transit development plan has identified the need for some fixed routes with the possibility of including some on-demand routing systems.
You're also working with the Alamo area transit, too. We've had some interchange with Art and some of those guys. So it's really kind of a multi-spectrum transit situation in some cases. Right?
It is, and you're right. In fact, we've had an agreement now with ART for a number of years. In fact, it was soon after the 2010 census, where we hit over 50,000 in population, that all of a sudden public transportation became our responsibility. We still had some funding from the state, but now we needed to come up with a match, whereas before we didn't have to.
What else you got?
Sure, absolutely. So let's talk really quickly about our budget. So the council adopted a $420 million budget, okay? But really wanted to focus on the property tax rate, because what was adopted was a property tax rate reduction. Now, this was the 4th consecutive year where the council actually adopted a budget with a property tax rate reduction. In fact, since fiscal year 2020, the property tax rate has been reduced about 7.9 cents over those few fiscal years. So I think that really speaks well to the fiscal responsibility of the organization and the city council. We compare our property tax rate to about 22 different benchmark cities from across the state. Cities that surround us, that are nearby us, cities of similar population or similar growth rate, And we're on the bottom half of that graph, which is where you want to be. In fact, our property tax rate is lower than many of the communities that surround us, like San Marcos, Seguin, San Antonio, and a number of other cities.
Yeah. Now, some of that, just so y'all folks know, yes, we did reduce the rate. The property values went up, so some cases your taxes went down.
That's right.
And others your taxes went up. Now, we also had some pullback this year that we've talked about in the first segment of this show. And what really is going to happen in there is that there'll be a reassessment. So if you're expecting the city to, take the rate down again, it's all going to be about the math. How much money are we collecting? Mm-hmm. And is the tax rate sufficient to do what we're doing? That's what this all boils down to.
You bet. Now, property taxes, just so everyone knows, property taxes are not the largest source of revenue, for example, in the general fund.
Sales tax.
That's sales tax revenues, which makes up about 35% or about $34 million in revenues in the general fund. Property taxes is the second largest source of revenue.
So quit complaining about the tourists. They're paying your taxes. Or a little bit of it anyway.
A number of other things that we did to help, for example, with recruiting in the organization. I like to say, and I absolutely believe, that the most important asset that we have in the organization is the people that we have in the organization, sure. The public servants that serve our community on a day-to-day basis. We need to be an organization that has pay and benefits that are competitive, right, to retain the talent within the organization, but also recruit talent within the organization when we have turnover. And we were able to implement, for example, in PD, what's called a lateral transfer program. What that does, it allows us to be able to hire police officers that might have a couple of years of experience, for example, mm-hmm. and recognize that experience and pay them accordingly so that they come to us already certified, rather than having to send them to the academy, have that expense of sending them to the academy because we pay them while they're in the academy. They come out of the academy. They then have to go through a long training period before they're actually put on the street and can then operate on their own. If you bring in a certified police officer, you're not sent into the academy. You've got a shortened training period. You're able to get a more experienced officer on the street much quicker. As before the lateral transfer program, if you had a 3-year officer that wanted to come to the city of New Braunfels, to MBPD, they would have to start at step 1 of the pay plan. Now we're able to recognize that experience and pay them accordingly. Great. On the fire side, for example, we implemented a sign-on incentive for paramedics. Mm-hmm. So rather than having to send someone to paramedic school and pay them while they're in paramedic school and then backfill with overtime, we're now able to hire paramedics who are already certified. That saves us that time and that money, and we get that experience on board day one. Mm-hmm. So just a couple of things that we've been able to do.
That's great. Now, what's on your agenda for 24?
So we incorporated in the current year's budget an update to the city's comprehensive plan. The current comp plan was actually adopted in 2018 after an extensive public outreach and participation effort. But your comp plan really needs to be updated at least every 5 years or so.
Right.
So it's time to update that. So we incorporated some funding in the current fiscal year budget. So we're going to be initiating that in 2024. We also included some funding for an update to the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Let me talk about the strategic plan as well. Something we initiated in 2023 but will be finalized in 2024 is the city's strategic plan. What that is it will help to identify what the city will be focusing on, what the vision of the city will be into the future. What do we need to focus and prioritize on, or so that we can then meet the goals of that vision? It'll also help to be a guide on decisions such as budget, allocation of resources, long-term capital improvements and investments, economic development, city services, and also serve as a communication tool, a transparency tool, so that folks will be able to look at this strategic plan and be able to see what it is that we're going to be investing and why and to what benefit that
what
will bring
are some
to
of the
community.
Key elements of the plan that you could be excited about now, and some of them are future that maybe require bond? But
yeah, let me answer it this way. We asked a number of questions. We had a very extensive public participation process in this. and had a number of community forums, stakeholder interviews, online surveys, and we took comments on the website. And we asked a number of different questions. And one of the questions that we asked is, what does the city here? Let me just get to it here real quickly. But what are some of the things that we do well? Okay, and then I'll follow up with what are some of the things we need to focus on. So what the surveys said to us, what our community said to us, is we do a good job of maintaining outdoor spaces, parks and trails, public safety, police and fire, engagement with our community and residents, business environment for local business, preserving natural resources. What it said we didn't do well was affordable housing and providing a variety of affordable housing options. Transportation is something that we needed to focus on. So when we asked a follow-up question, then what are the top five? What are the top five things you would like to see more of in New Braunfels? So the top five are passive public preserves and trails, preservation of natural resources, recreational and active park facilities such as fields, courts, and whatnot, transportation options, so roads, but also public transportation, bicycle lanes, and whatnot, and then quality public safety services. Those are the top five. So those things help to then inform the components of the strategic plan.
Right.
We're working on a draft of that plan now. Now, the next steps are we then will present a draft of that plan to the council in February with the hope to get that adopted quickly thereafter, and then we then finalize an implementation plan, because you've got to then set measurable outcomes, right? How do we measure progress to be able to complete what's identified in the strategic plan?
And what you can fund internally and with all the tools you have, and what are going to have to go to bond.
You bet.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's not all going to be able to be implemented
No.
or completed within the first year, maybe the first 2 years. But you're right. Some of it may need to then go to a future bond election.
Right. And yeah, there's impact fees, and so that affects some of the park stuff and some of the road stuff. And sometimes that's just a drop in a bucket. So I know I've had comments that said, okay, great, we got the sports park, and that's on the east side, but on the southeast side. And, of course, we have Landa on the southwest side and Fisher Park. And then, again, it's all on the south side.
Correct.
So when we take and look at the river, we were short on park space and interconnect space on the north side, both northwest and northeast. So I'm sure that was in some of the communication with people.
It was.
Some things that we've heard.
Folks want more parks and they want more trails.
Yeah, and of course part of that breaks down to the connectivity and the road thing that you talked about.
Correct.
Because if there's easy access, what we don't have is a secondary north-south corridor off of the east side to get across the river to where you could, go from point A to point A, from Resolute to Walnut. So all of the transportation plans and things that you're looking at for the future all impact all of this at the same time too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned plans, and I mentioned that we funded an update to the Parks Master Plan. That will help to identify where the gaps are. We know where they currently are, but we've had a lot of growth since the last Parks Master Plan. So where are those gaps? There's some opportunities that are coming up that I wish I could speak of, but I can't just yet. But there may be some opportunities in the very near future for us to be able to acquire some land for a future park, which could potentially be a future bond proposition. We're also, we keep talking also a lot about roads and transportation. We're also updating our master thoroughfare plan.
Well, and you've made a deal recently with Comal County to take over the bypass, the 46 bypass to Engle. So that took some pressure off the city on that to pick up from 46 near 1863, and then I think cuts over near Kruger Canyon or whatever to take some pressure off of 46 and some of the incoming traffic. So y'all are looking at cooperatives between counties, right?
That's absolutely right. That's one great example of us working very closely with some of our partners, Comal County being one of those, a great partner of ours. And that's a Comal County-led project, which we absolutely support, and the council supports that project as well to be able to alleviate some of the transportation, the congestion off of 46. Another project, which is a major project that has 4 different entities that have partnered on this. Well, actually 5. So the City of New Braunfels, Comal County, Guadalupe County, the City of Seguin, and TxDOT on the expansion of 46 from Seguin to New Braunfels. And that is a huge project.
Oh, that's massive.
It's well over $1 billion, if not probably several $1 billion at this point. So there's no funding for construction, but there is funding for planning and preliminary design so that the right-of-way or the easements that may be necessary for that project can be identified now. What alignments might make sense, identify those now so that it can then help to mitigate some of that congestion.
Yeah, and I want
46.
people to know, like, this is a 3 to 5 year process just to begin to start it, because the acquisition of right-of-ways, especially with as dense as we are in commercial and some other things there, we're going to have condemnation or disagreements about value, and then that ends up in tech. I mean, it's a very complicated process, but the point is it usually takes anywhere from 2 years to 3 years to get all of those settled.
You're right.
So that you get done. And then there becomes the timing issues with all of the major utilities and the infrastructure.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, well, I guess it was 10 years ago when we were doing the 306. Everybody was in place. We had all our stuff done, and AT&T goes, we're not quite ready.
Yeah.
You know? So they held us up for about 3 months. Nothing like being held up over a telephone line. Okay, and everybody's on their cells. So anyway,
utility relocation can be an issue, although NBU has not been an issue on any of our projects, but certainly have issues with other utilities. But you're absolutely right. Even though you approve a project doesn't mean that you're going to be able to break ground immediately thereafter.
No.
There's a lot of work that takes place between that and breaking ground.
From the day you pass a bond, if we have to acquire land, right-of-ways, and on, it's a 5 to 7 year process, just the way it is. I mean, it's the same thing when we start to talk about why don't we have more power plants. Just the EPA process is 18 to 24 months just to go, yep, there are no endangered turtles. That kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right. There's federal process you've got to follow.
Oh, my God,
absolutely.
it's awful.
Yeah.
So we're out of time. Tell us if there's one more thing you really wanted the people to know, and then how can they get city information about all this good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We certainly encourage folks to go to our website. There's a ton of information on our website with regards to any upcoming public meetings, which we are certainly going to have public meetings on a number of different projects.
Right.
But also, if you want to look at what the update is for each of the projects that we have, say for the 2019 bond program, 2023 bond program, or any non-bond related projects, we have a link on our website called New Braunfels at Work that you can actually look at the status of each one of those projects that are either completed, in design, or under construction. Right. So I would encourage folks to do that. We push, our communications team does a great job of pushing a lot of information out on social media. So I encourage folks to please visit one of our social media pages or our website. Yeah,
go to the City of New Braunfels. It's easy to find into Google's. And you're able to find it up. And then they have it broken by the departments and different types of things. And if it's a real hot topic, they're going to give it to you early. If not, it's going to be in, the road department or the parks department, and you'll find it that way. But they got pretty little pictures in there to help you.
We try.
It's all good. Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
If somebody needs to reach you, they can just get the general line at the city?
You bet. Just call City Hall, and they'll be able to direct you over to my office.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know you're getting everybody ready for the freeze this next week.
Stay tuned for information that we'll be issuing on that to prepare you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, 22-degree weather and 18. If you haven't begged, borrowed, or stolen warm clothes or blankets just in case life doesn't go well, you might be getting them before Sunday. So thank you for being here. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. I very appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
You're great. Now, next week on the Real Deal Real Estate Show, we're going to have Jonathan Packer on, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that